We have Tom Brydon, who is the regional manager of Blis. You can thank him for that delicious food. And at lunch, I hear we're having a taco bar also, so a little excited about that. Tom has spent nearly a decade in digital media here in the US and both the UK. Melody Dickinson will be joining him. Her data experience began as a graduate researcher at MIT. And today, she does sales and digital analytics for RSI. So welcome to the stage, Tom and Melody.
So we're here today to talk to you about knowing your shopper through precision marketing and measurement at scale, which is something that sounds very obvious, and it's similar to the last presentation in terms of, well, duh, right? But there's not always an easy way to do that. So we've got some hints and tips from tricks that we've kind of learned from our experience in the market. So I wanted to give you a little background on who Blis is. So we're a location technology company, and we've been around since 2004. Basically, as long as location data has been available to utilize for marketing purposes. Started in the UK, so it's the only reason they hired me. And I'm very on brand, you know. They wheel me out, they keep me in a box at XNA and then just ship me to different locations to do these things. Started in 2004, grew throughout Europe, and then now we have a global footprint, and we've been in the US for about 4 years. So everyone knows who this guy is, pioneer. He basically created a device which has changed the way society deals and connects with the internet. There isn't really a technological advancement that has shaped and changed the way we access things today like this device. And through the iterations over the past 12 years that we have, we're on iPhone 27 right now, and Samsung Galaxy X54. It's really developed into a way where your smartphone has become intrinsic to your everyday lives. And that's what we believe location is tied to and is a really key insight into your shopper. So there's about 270 million devices in the US at the moment. Pretty incredible. I've actually read a study by Deloitte that says on average we interact with our smartphone 52 times a day. So if you times that by the number of smartphones in the US, that's 14 billion interaction points every day across the US. That's some pretty impressive scale. I was going to insert a slide that said pause for effect there so you could all gasp and make me feel good about my amazing stat, but I'll keep going. So, ways of accessing the internet. Smartphone is now number one. 12 years ago, this would have looked very, very different. Desktop computer would have been number one. Society is changing. The way we interact with things every day is changing. Interestingly, making a phone call, i.e. the thing that you're supposed to do with your phone, is only the 6th most common thing that you now do on your device. Also, as a show of hands, I'm not going to ask who has a smartphone, because that would be stupid, and we'll probably send a few cups of coffee flying as you put your hands up, so I'll avoid the third-degree burns today. But who doesn't have a smartphone?
My parents.
Okay. You're kind of ruining my point here, but all right. There's got to be at least one person lurking in the back with like a Motorola Razr flip phone or something, no? Okay, if you are, you're my hero, and I won't name and shame you. But yeah, the way we access the internet now, smartphone device. Smart TVs are on the rise, and tablets are obviously on the rise as well. In another 5 years, this will look very different, and that's the nature of the industry that we're in. Why does that matter? Well, we believe that location is at the core of who you are. It's a very honest representation of what you do every day. There isn't a much more honest representation of your shopper than following them around and understanding what they do. We're not relying on other metrics here. It's based on their behavior. And we can use that behavior to deliver important and very, very intrinsic messages to your shopper. We don't have to rely on self-reported demographics. So age, gender, ethnicity, important, but on their own don't tell us a huge amount about a shopper. We don't rely on self-reported attitudes. Religious, not religious. Liberal, conservative. That has no bearing on the type of toothpaste you're going to buy. We don't rely on self-reported lifestyles. You can see here that you've got health and unhealthy kind of mixed up into one little neat package. I'm a good example of this. Used to go to the gym all the time, and then I moved here. Fried chicken got me. That's all I can say. But I still look at content online which is health-related. The difference here is that if you were to follow my location around, I haven't stepped foot inside a gym for over a year. It's very important that what you want to be perceived as isn't necessarily what you do every day from a location standpoint. And we don't rely on stereotypes. Because we know so much about your shopper, we don't need to rely on stereotypes. Apologies if anyone does live or has lived in New York. and you currently live in the corrupt city officials district, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but what we're essentially saying, you could argue that Northwest Arkansas also has a little bit of a stereotype attached to it. I think that's changed, but this area is phenomenal. We're at the precipice of a lot of cutting-edge technology and commerce here, and still not that many people know about us. And that's fine. They can stay away, unless they want to push the price of my house up, and then they can keep coming. That's cool. Now that I'm actually on the property ladder. But yeah, so stereotypes, we don't need to rely on them because we know who the shopper is. And you use actual behavior to guide the strategy, none of the other self-reported metrics. So this will take the award for the most boring slide you will see today. If there's a trophy, I'll take it now. But I'm getting to a point. In order to build up this idea, you've got to start with space, and that starts with a lat-long data point. So we know exactly where this is on the Earth's surface. Then you've got to layer on place. So at that location point, is there a building? What kind of building is it? Then brands. This is where it starts to get really interesting for you guys as brand and shopper marketers. So is my Walmart located there? Is it a gym? Is it a Starbucks? Is it a Target? We can really start to build up a picture through a places of interest database in terms of where these locations are and what is being serviced out of them. And then the most important part, people, is the people. The people that need to buy your product. You need them to purchase your product. They decide the success and failure of whether your product is going to grow, increase its distribution, or whether it's going to suffer and eventually be pulled. Kind of brutal, but it's the truth of it. So we need to understand where they're going through these different location points in order to better understand who your shopper is. Once we know that, we can talk about audience segmentation. And that essentially boils down to 3 key data points: lat-long, places of interest, and time and date stamp. Across these 3 data points, your unique device ID sits and lives on. So you've got to treat the device, those set of numbers, as your shopper. It's kind of an impersonal way of doing it, but data protection, we need to make sure that we're being coherent with that and compliant with that. But essentially, that device is your shopper, and you need to find ways to interact with them which make sense for them in their everyday lives, because consumers now don't see the difference between offline and online. So I just had a baby. Well, not me, my wife. And she's 6 weeks old, and she is amazing and challenging and can be a little bit of a creature at times, but this is why location becomes very key, because you build up a behavioral profile. The reason I mention that is because if this was me, those points would look like home, Starbucks, work, Starbucks, home, because I have no life. Now, my boss, Christina's over there wondering why the hell is this guy taking so many coffee breaks, but it's needed, 3 hours of sleep a day. But these key points, linked to unique device ID, build up a picture of who your shopper is. You need to know where they are, you need to know what location they're in and what is serviced within that location, and then you need to know when they're doing it and what day they're doing it. So we can make that a little bit more organic. So for some reason, when I was practicing this, I started not calling her Becky, so we'll stick with Becky. We can also call her generic image girl. But essentially what this is an everyday shopper for you guys. And this is key, because Becky starts a day at the University of Arkansas at 8:15. She then goes to Starbucks on campus. She goes to the gym. She goes to a bar because, students go to bars in the afternoon, and, who doesn't love and miss that, right? And then we see her at Chick-fil-A in the evening. This is your shopper. This is her every day. And if you think about it, this is what you probably do. Not necessarily in that order, but your everyday routine and patterns look like this. What we're building up here is we're building a picture of her for you. So we know she's a student. We know she likes to go to the gym and try and stay healthy. And then we know she eats chicken because Chick-fil-A is the best thing that was ever created. So we're going to serve her in this example a Tyson chicken ad because it's relevant to her behavior. Different demographic here and a different targeting principle. So we've got a mom. It sounds weird when I say mum and a daughter. We see her at school every day, Monday through Friday, and we know she is a mom. She goes to the gym, but then she goes to a nail salon. Then she's at Walmart. So this is important because this is your retailer affinity, right? And then she goes home, and she's connected to a home Wi-Fi. In this example, what you're doing is you've got retailer affinity, but you're trying to provide an experience which is relevant to her everyday behavior. So in this, you've got the simple hydrating booster. We're serving her that ad because we know she's interested in beauty and health based on her location, but we're serving her on her home Wi-Fi when she's in a more relaxed state of mind to actually receive the information that we're displaying to her. There's a quiz piece attached to this. So if you need her to take an action which is going to take more than just a click, serve it to her on her home Wi-Fi. She's in a much more relaxed state of mind to be able to do that on devices more akin to those types of actions. And then targeting layers. So some of these pieces we've already talked about, but there's a raft of information that we can add to this. You've got retailer visitation, Wi-Fi browsing behavior, demographics. This is where demographics becomes important because demographics are key to understanding who your shopper is, but it needs to be combined with this information. App ownership targeting. Blis has the ability to do that across iOS and Android. Do they have the Walmart app? Do they have the Target Cartwheel app? Do they have apps which are relevant to the theme of the program if it's health and wellness? Is it a male versus female type split in terms of ESPN? Is it a family, cozy organizer? Those types of apps give us a really good indication of who your shopper is. And then product and competitor purchases. We need to know who's buying your product, who's buying the product in your category, and also who's buying your competitors' products, because we need to layer that on in order to try and regain market share for you. And we deliver that through Wi-Fi and lat long in order to create a personalized experience. Whilst we're doing that, we're optimizing and measuring pre, during, and after the campaign through Blis and RSI metrics. And that's kind of where I'm going to hand it over to Melody and create the perfect little segue.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. And hi, everyone, again. I am Melody Dickinson with RSI. We connect online campaigns to in-store sales at scale. Many of you know us as a measurement partner. Measurement is certainly important, but we believe that measurement alone is not enough. You know, you have a shopper campaign, you scrape together a budget. You need to be doing everything before, during, and after a campaign to be driving that incrementality in sales, especially, when, those are your KPIs. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about integrating the demand signal or actual sales data into targeting, optimization, and measurement. All right, so before, during, and after the campaign. Let's start with before. So, you've got your budget. Before a campaign, you're looking at geo-targeting. Where's your investment going to go? Towards which stores, right? How many stores is your budget going to cover? If you're thinking about those stores, are they carrying the products that are being advertised in the first place? I mean, we're a savvy group here, so we're going to assume yes, that's being verified in advance of the campaign. Are you looking at how much sales the stores that are being, invested in are actually covering for those featured items? Which percentage of sales do they represent? So for an average campaign that ONSA measures, 25% of retailer stores will be targeted, and those retailer stores make up 45% of featured item sales. So, that's pretty efficient, right? If you're looking at targeting based on sales data in advance of a campaign, you're targeting a quarter of retailer stores, physical locations, but reaching almost half of your brand sales. I mean, that's pretty efficient. And we can take a look at that, visualize it. So think about a recent campaign that you supported. Maybe it's ketchup, maybe it's cola, maybe it's face cream, or, maybe it's toys. If you look across retailer stores, your products, some stores going to be selling a lot. I should just be calling them Walmarts, right? Where are we? Some of the stores are going to be selling a lot of the products. Some of the stores not going to be selling so much. So we've got that represented on the blue line right there. We all know that. And then, you can take the average sales of your featured items. That's represented by the red line. And the red line up here is going to be the most important piece of the visualization. So if you are looking at store sales of your featured items, anything above that red line, those stores are going to be selling more than average, right? Anything below the red line, those stores are going to be selling less than average. So if you're geo-targeting, and again, you're charged with driving incrementality in in-store sales, the opportunity is really going to be in that quadrant. There's a sweet spot right there, especially, if you've got a more limited budget. And again, if you're planning ahead of time, targeting 25% of stores, where does that fall within this line? Pretty efficient, again, in terms of driving sales. So that's before the campaign. Moving forward, you're live. Invariably, throughout a campaign, there are going to be some stores that are really popping, great response to media. There are always some stores, they lag behind. Oftentimes, we don't know why. But what we do know is there's an opportunity there to do something about it. So by understanding performance during a campaign, you can shift media to heavy up on the stores that are performing well. Similarly, if there are stores that aren't pulling their weight, maybe the product's out of stock, maybe there's a competitive rollback, something's going on, we don't even need to know, don't invest there. And I will say, just in terms of what we're seeing from, the media partners who we work with, probably towards the end of 2018, there are a couple leaders out there who really came to us wanting to develop a strong optimization strategy. And, Blis has certainly been at the forefront of this. With some of the returns that we've seen in 2019, those media partners who are really looking to understand intra-campaign performance and optimizing ruthlessly are the ones that are driving the best returns this year so far. And of course, we got to share a couple of KPIs about what we've measured. About 70% of campaigns have a statistically significant lift. This is like the, hey, let's try something crazy campaigns, as well as the, hey, this worked last year, let's do it again. So pretty solid number. 50% of campaigns, we observe some type of halo lift, so other benefits to products and the brand in terms of sales. And this is whether it's a new item that's being supported or existing item being supported. Not surprisingly, larger format retailers generate more volume movement than small format retailers, but we've measured it, and fun fact, it's to the tune of 61% higher sales. And of course, how are we qualifying the data that we're presenting today? Over 1,300 campaigns have been measured to date across 150 CPGs, 20 retailers, although let's be honest, there's one retailer in particular where most media dollars are spent, mass merchant, and there's so much media being measured today. Over 5 trillion impressions have been measured by ANSA to date. So, this is just another layer incorporating in-store sales on top of everything else that's being done. I'm going to turn it back over to Tom to walk you through a couple of case studies, bring it all to life.
Thanks, Melody. So, closing the loop, what does this look like in the real world? You just got a lot of information there. And if you're still with us, then you want to see, okay, what's the output of this? Because this sounds great in theory, but I want to see how this actually works for a campaign. So, I've got a couple of case studies for you here. In this example, we're trying to drive sales of skincare products and regain market share amongst 18 to 44-year-olds by targeting people who are lapsed and competitor purchasers. And what we're doing is we're collecting devices seen at stores in the last 30 days and then filtering those into defined behavioral groups to target against. Now, we can give you 50 pages of insights, or we can give you 2 pages of insights. The key thing we learned here was that store visitation was twice as high amongst the 25 to 34-year-olds as it was for the 18 to 24-year-olds. Really interesting, actionable insights for your brand and your product, and helps to refine and target against that in the future. Put more of your dollars towards that audience group. We drove a 21% foot traffic uplift and a 13.5% featured item sales lift with this campaign. Really strong results, thanks to knowing your shopper and targeting them in the right way. This one's kind of cool because it's got a veteran charity association with it. So it's got the ethical element, which is always nice to work on these kind of campaigns. And what we were doing is we were trying to promote the affiliation between this soap brand and a veteran charity. And essentially the way it worked was when a customer bought one of these special edition packs, $1 was donated to the charity. By building up different behavioral traits and data points, people that had an affiliation with veterans had donated to charities in the past, plus layering on household income data and insights, and compared to products at low price points, we're able to combine that into a really effective campaign and make it work in harmony to reach the right shopper. What that resulted in is it drove 132K of total item sales lift, and a foot traffic uplift of 17% as well. Really good, positive campaign results, and a great cause as well, which we always like to support. Finally, the targeting on this one's a little bit different. So we were driving sales of pint ice cream products within a certain retailer. We all know who the retailer is. And we were targeting female devices 25 to 45. We took a different approach to this, a zonal targeting approach, and it was similar to what we were talking about before. Hot zone, in store, right where you want them to be. So they're in the store. Ideally, what's happened is that you've kept your brand top of mind through targeting throughout their journey, but you need them to purchase. Serve them creative, which generates a reaction. Get them to purchase your brand. Make it as easy as possible to get your product and make them know that your product should be the one they're buying for whatever reason it might be. Engaging creative, clear messaging. Comfort zone, at home, connected to Wi-Fi, cross-device targeting. Utilize that Wi-Fi connection. Not necessarily as action-driven, but still, you want to keep your brand top of mind. And then idle zone, on the go, in transit. Smartphones predominantly here, and again, you're looking to kind of convert them to that hot zone. You want to get them in store purchasing your product, using a digital means to create a physical reaction. What we found here was 14% foot traffic uplift, again, very strong. 13.2% featured item sales lift. And then Blis has the ability to do a sales uplift model or a return on ad spend model, which is kind of unique. So it depends what you're looking at here. Chocolate hazelnut had the best sales uplift, but milk chocolate vanilla actually drove the most incremental sales units. So a key distinction there. And if you want to know a little bit more about that, feel free to stop by our booth. We'll be more than happy to chat to you about that. So kind of closing the loop here. Appreciate your time today. I know it's a lot of information. It's something that we're very passionate about at Blis, is getting to know your shopper and making it actionable for our clients. We really care about working with our clients and making our campaigns as effective as possible. I think the days are gone of just using digital means to define whether a campaign was successful or not. Impressions, click-through rates, helicopters. Digital helicopters. All these things, whilst useful, need to be tied to physical, real-world actions. Which was the best performing retailer? What was the best time of day? How long did it take someone to convert? What was your uplift? We need to know these things and tie them back to a digital means. And really, that's the power that we have. And it's a great time to be in shopper marketing. I'm probably a little bit too excited about it because I'm a big old geek, but really, I genuinely think we have so much data to action against now that for you guys, it's a fantastic time, and we can measure it, and it's amazing. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.